What's up, guys? It's Mackenzie here. Today I wanted to delve into the topic of religion. Alright, so I got the Inteligentes on. Alright, these are not prescription. These are for aesthetic purposes. Alright, but I wanted to mention about the issues I noticed in the religious community. Alright, I understand that religion is a very nuanced and sensitive topic because religion is a part of our personality that is very vulnerable, and it cultivates, like, our faith and our hope and whatnot. So I hope that no one takes this video personal. All right, so I want to start with a story time. All right, so my family, they're Christians. All right, my family is their default Christians. They believe in God, they believe in all that. Okay, and growing up, that's how it was for me. All right, as a kid, my family grew up believing in God, so it was like, okay, the default is Christianity. All right, but as a kid, I always know that I was very skeptical. I was a very questionable girl. Okay, and even though I told myself I was Christian, there were certain aspects of Christianity I was very confused about. And my family, they're not like heavy like religious. Like, they're not like, they didn't go to church every single day, they didn't read the Bible every single morning. Like, we were like a very lukewarm Christian family. Okay, like I've been to church probably around 2 times when I was a little girl. That's how it was. Like, we claimed ourselves as Christians, but we didn't do the things that actual Christians did. All right, and the very few times I did go to church, it was a very scary experience. I know. And it was scary because the church we went to was not a good church. It was a very weird church. I remember, the pastor would say a lot of like weird things. Like, the church I went to was really heavy into fear-mongering. And I don't know if y'all know what fear-mongering is, but it's basically when a religion is trying to persuade you to join the religion through the means of scaring you into the ideology. What's up, guys? It's editor Kenzie here. I just realized that I gave you a really chopped meaning of what fear-mongering is. It's really hard for me to explain things, but fear-mongering in religion is the use of fear, manipulation, and the exaggeration of dangers, such as divine judgment, hell, or supernatural curses, to influence, control, or coerce people into adhering to specific religious beliefs and behaviors. Hope that helps. A lot of Christians love to say, oh, if you don't give your life to God, then you're gonna go to hell. It's not all of y'all, but I noticed that people who are like really devoted to Christianity and they want people to follow their religion so badly, they do those things to get people to follow. But that's how my pastor was at the church we went to. Like, he would say a lot of weird things that like 5-6-year-old me was like really terrified and confused about. Like, oh, okay. And I remember, like, it really did scare me into being Christian, even though it wasn't a religion that I was 110% confident in believing. It really did scare me into forcing myself to believe that. But no, I was always a skeptical girl about religion growing up. And over time, the older I got, I built my own beliefs. When I was around like 11, 10 years old, I got heavily into spirituality and all that stuff. And I've kind of just developed my own belief system. I'm not a religious person per se. I don't follow any religion. I'm not Christian. I'm not any of that. I am strictly a spiritual person. Okay? But yeah, like, as somebody who isn't religious, you're bound to come across people who are going to shame you for not believing in the things they believe in. Like, I remember one time in middle school, there was this girl. She was heavily Christian. She went to church every single Sunday. She told me she reads her Bible. She's very heavily into Christianity. And I remember one time we were talking and we were mentioning the concept of church. And I told her, like, yeah, no, I don't go to church. And then she was like, oh, what, you're not Christian? And I was like, yeah, I'm not Christian. And then like her demeanor changed so quick. Like, she was so calm, and I know her. She was like, what, you don't believe in God? And like, she just got angry at me, and she started like, yelling at me like, no, you need to give yourself to God. You need to go to church. You need to, like, she was like really, like, she got visibly angry at me. It was crazy, and like, I was very calm about it, but like, her demeanor just changed completely. And I feel like that situation in itself shows that some people are like very they don't play about their beliefs. They don't play about, their line of faith. And the minute they see somebody who doesn't follow their line of faith, they get very defensive. Not everybody, but it's a certain demographic of people who do those things. And that leads to the unspoken problem about religion. Not necessarily Christians or anything along those lines, but people in religion. Religion, again, is a very nuanced and sensitive topic, I understand. And I know why. Because religion is basically, people use religion as a means of hope, as a means of faith, all right? Whenever you're looking over the edge and you don't know what to do next and you're in a place of despair and hopelessness, you turn to your religion to help you find that hope. I understand that's a very sensitive thing, all right? I know why. But because of that very reason, I feel like people take religion so serious that they ultimately feel offended when someone doesn't follow their line of faith. And I've met people, I've heard of people who they have when I say they, I mean people who are heavily dogmatic. That's the right word. Very dogmatic people. Very dogmatic people, they often like to demonize people who are not religious. Like, the minute someone says they're not Christian or that they're atheist or that they're this and they're that, they're quick to assume like, oh, okay, so you're a Satanist. Like, no, that's not what it means. It's like anything that goes against that, you're demonic, you're that, you're this. And it's like, no, it's much more than that. And it's very close-minded to assume that somebody is a bad person because they're not following your line of faith. Let me tell you something. Just because you're not religious, just because you don't have a certain religion that most people follow, just because you're atheist does not make you a bad person, all right? And that's also another issue about religion nowadays. People who are heavily devoted into religion is that they think that religion shapes your character. It's a part of your character, but it doesn't shape your character. All right? A lot of people, ironically, the most religious people can be the most evil people you've ever met. That's why so many pastors end up being, that, and they end up being way evil than you could ever expect. And you'd be surprised at how many people who are heavily religious are simply religious because of the fact that they have done something that bad to where they want to cover that up with some type of image that they have to portray to people. So I don't think religion determines if you are a bad person or not. It just is. It's just a thing that is a part of your character. All right. So if you are somebody who is, not religious of any sorts, you're not a bad person. All right. Because I'm not religious, all right? Like, even though I'm not a religious person, I'm heavily spiritual. I do have a moral guide that I follow by. Did y'all hear that? My battery. But I'm not a religious person, all right? I'm very spiritual. And even though I am more spiritual, I still have a moral guide that I follow by, okay? My moral guide is that as long as I'm living my life authentically and I'm spreading love, light, positivity, it doesn't matter, okay? So, I don't know. I just hate the idea that people who aren't religious are bad people or that they're demonic. And I don't like the idea of religious people forcing their religion onto others by fear-mongering and, forcing them into a line of faith that they don't necessarily believe in, because truth be told, religion isn't a solid thing. We don't know what's real. We don't know what happens after death. We don't know what or who controls us, truth be told. It's just something that we believe in that keeps us more hopeful and faithful for the future. Well, since I'm kind of already here, I wanted to mention my personal beliefs. So, I am more spiritual. I told you that. But, do I believe in God? I do not believe in a physical entity that presents itself as God. I actually am more of a believer that God is within ourselves, okay? I don't think that there's an entity that's controlling over us and letting things happen for us. I don't believe in that. I think that we are the creator of our own reality and that we have power over everything that happens to us and what we do. So, do I believe in God? To some degree, but maybe not in a way that Christians or any other religion does. I think that God is within us. I think we are the gods of our own reality, and that we control what happens in our lives. Okay, and I'm also a really huge believer in reincarnation. I think reincarnation is definitely a thing. Science says, oh, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So I do think that when we pass away, I think that our souls, which is energy, I think our souls go to a different dimension, or that we maybe even go back to a different timeline. Who knows? But that's just what I think happens. I have a very interesting belief system, but those are just a few things that I believe in. I'm also a huge believer in tarot and astrology. Yeah, it's also another thing that people consider demonic, but that's not demonic. I don't think it is. I think that if you use it for good will and good means, then I don't think it's necessarily demonic. You know. But yeah, that's my video. All right. Sorry for rambling. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk.